do whatever, man.
Just,
But I gotta introduce the muzzle uh, in a aggressive way.
right.
Hi.
Are we on? Hi, folks.
We're already talking about you guys.
Yeah, we're talking about you. Well, we're gonna go into one of my favorite topics and one of the, I think, most misunderstood, misused, in my opinion, training things that there is. Hey, Carol Ann,
Yes.
can you get over and turn that light on, Scott, so everybody
Yes.
can see? Oh, if you watch it, I don't like to make statements without backup. So I like everyone to know my sources. If it's from a book, I'll give you the title. If it's from a person, I'll give you the person's name. So let me go back a little bit and give you my background with muzzle training. I started using a muzzle when I was in Amarillo with a canine handler up there. And I was working his dog. This is when I really knew nothing. But I had everybody fooled. And he said, "Hey, Butch, have you ever worked a dog in a muzzle?" And I said, "Nope." And he said, "Well, I heard it makes them a lot tougher." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, I brought a muzzle." I said, "Okay." And put the muzzle on the dog, and the dog jumped up and down, went woof, woof, woof. And he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Oh, he's tough." And that was my introduction to a muzzle. I looked into it a little bit, but not that much at that time. My muzzle education came from a gentleman named Brian Alm, and this was after I'd opened my guard dog company. Mr. Alm, or Ami, I never was sure how to pronounce his name, was a university professor in Newfoundland, but he also was one of the major trainers for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And he got his beginning in dog training, police dogs, when he saved up his own money and went to Germany and got accepted in the German police dog academy, and I think he spent 3 or 4 months learning how they train all of their police dogs. He came back to Newfoundland and he was in love with the muzzle. He owned one sleeve. I don't know how many hundreds of dogs he sold to the Mounties, but he had one sleeve. He pulled it out one time, and that was when they came up to look at dogs to buy, and he'd send the dog out for one bite, just so they saw that the dog would bite. But he had a couple other things he did that were kind of unique. Now he started his pups in a muzzle. I'll explain why in a minute. I mentioned this to you, I think, before. His big demo would be to have, if the guy was, from Saskatchewan, had a couple of cops there looking at dogs, he'd say, "I'll tell you what, guys, why don't you two take off running and let one of you get about 10 feet ahead and the other one then both start running, and we'll simulate what happens if you have a gang or a couple of people in a gang running from you, and how you can handle it with one of my dogs." So they take off running one in front of the other. He would, with the muzzle, he would send whatever dog they're looking at to buy. Now, one's in the front, 10 feet behind him's the second one. Who do you think the dog's going to nail?
The first guy.
You think he'd nail the first guy, right?
No.
Not Mr. Ami's dogs. The first guy was for the cop to handle, because the dog is faster than everybody. He would run around the team and come back and nail the man in the front, pin him to the ground, and leave the second person for the human to handle.
Because the second guy would stop out of shock.
Oh yeah, yeah. I ain't going no further.
Right?
Yeah,
It's a good tactic.
yeah. So it's an easy apprehension. But this is the level of dog that the Mounties probably still have today. I met Mr. Ami when there's a gentleman named Bob Eden, also out of Canada. And he used, through the 90s, he put on, I think he called it Canine International, police dog seminars. They were 6 days long, police only. I got to go because I'm a state licensed guard dog trainer, so I came in along with law enforcement. And that's where I met Mr. Ami and fell in love with the muzzle. And as it turned out, they needed some of the decoys that were supposed to be there. I remember it's a week-long seminar. it's tracking, it's scent detection, it's first aid if your dog overdoses. I mean, we actually took a tube and tubed the dog that they got out of the pound, and it was the most extensive seminar I've ever seen. Nothing ever came close to matching it. Steve White, one of the top cop trackers in the United States, he'd run the tracking division. Mr. Amish showed everybody how to use the muzzle. And I'm not going to go into a lot of stories about it, but that's, especially when I started decoying for him, he kind of liked it, so I got to work with him, and I worked a few other shows for Bob after that, Mr. Eden. So, how do you work with the muzzle? First, in this country, I hear a lot of people saying the main thing people think is it's to proof a dog to be civil, right? He doesn't see any equipment, so let's put a muzzle on him, take him out to the field, and see if he'll still fight. Right? Does that make sense to you?
Makes sense.
He attacked the guy, so he must not be equipment oriented, right?
That depends.
On
Well,
he's on the training field.
he's on the field. So what's the guy doing?
The guy, the bad guy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Is he just
well,
running?
he's doing. He's
Or is he
doing.
doing the disco shooting?
Oh no, he's not running. He's standing there. Most of the times when I see them, they're standing there, popping the whip or screaming at the guy in their suit.
So you're saying the dog is not
He's not.
equipment oriented?
Yeah, they're saying it's not. He's civil.
Okay.
He's civil because he goes ahead and he attacks the guy even wearing a muzzle. But he's on his training field.
Yeah.
Are the guys wearing a suit for his protection?
Most would.
Most would.
I wouldn't.
No, and you don't.
But I gotta watch this.
That's exactly.
But anyway, that's the later.
Exactly.
So you're on the field, you're wearing a suit, you're doing the same routine you would as a dog that just training bite work. So it may not be equipment oriented, but he's aware of his surroundings, and that makes him.
Yeah.
He knows what he's there for.
It's there for, yeah. When they walk on that field, when you walk somewhere and you tighten that leash, the dog.
Can you splice those together?
Huh?
Can you splice those together?
So I'm thinking I'm gonna try to do, yeah.